Welcome back to Vital Signs. If you're just joining us, we are talking about psychological safety in the workplace. We've talked a little bit about stress and we've talked about resilience, but now what I want to do is tie it all together. I'm here with Jennifer Cahill. She's an expert in the space and she is working with many executives around the world. Jennifer, we have talked about the psychological safety. We've talked about people soup and how do we find the right teams. But let's dive into that resilience piece and that stress, because if we're coming into an office place at a level of stress where we don't have any bandwidth for anything that might come our way, what are some of the things that we can begin to do to develop that resilience so that we can be better leaders and that we can actually facilitate teams in a much more laid back, I guess is the way to put it, environment so that they can feel comfortable with what we're doing?
I think what's really important here, Jen, is for us to understand that we are like a cell phone. How many of us have a cell phone? We all have a cell phone in today's day and age, right? However, what happens is, just as though we're using our cell phone all day long, if we don't charge it and plug it back in, our cell phone is going to be drained. So the analogy I like to use is kind of like imagining a big ship. So let's say something happens and a phone call comes in and you have a fire you have to put out. It's like all of a sudden somebody just drilled a hole in the side of your ship. Now the rest of the day, you're busy trying to get the bucket of water out of the ship, right? But it's not just one hole. We have all of these holes. So when I started studying HeartMath about, 4 or 5 years ago, which I think you're familiar with as well, that really helped me to better understand what's called heart-brain coherence. So this is something that your HRV measures. So many of us, we have the Oura rings and the Whoops and the Apple Watches. And what that's measuring is actually our biofeedback and our biorhythms. So when we're in a position where we can actually intentionally bring ourselves back into a state of coherence, then what that's doing is that's plugging the holes in the boat. It's just like recharging your phone. So a great way we can do this, do you want me to take you through one?
Please do.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and take us through a technique that HeartMath calls heart-focused breathing. It's taught to first responders, firefighters, police officers, business people all around the world. And it's something you can do with me right now, and even if you're driving and listening to this on the radio, you can do it with your eyes open, which is why I love this technique. So I invite you to uncross your arms and legs. If you're driving, make sure your hands are at 10 and 2. And go ahead and begin to focus your attention in the area of your heart or chest. If you're sitting at home watching this, you could even put your right hand on your heart just to bring awareness or attention to where that is in your body. And I want you to breathe in slowly and deeply. Imagine breathing into the count of 5, right through the center of your heart or chest, and out to the count of 5. And let's do that another time here, breathing in slowly and deeply into the count of 5, and out to the count of 5. Now one more time, let's breathe in, although this time I want you to imagine breathing in calm. Really see if you can feel calm. And breathe in calm, in and out, right through the center of your heart or chest. How are you feeling, Jen?
Amazing.
Didn't you feel like everything just got quieter where we are here in the room? And this is what's available to us. A technique I was actually taught by one of my mentors in HeartMath is every time we walk through a doorway, just drop it right into heart-focused breathing, because that's one of the biggest challenges, is how do we then cultivate this so it becomes part of our regular routine. And another big tip I offer to people as well is to have a list, have a resilience tool list. So I'll give you a funny example. You know who Batman is, right?
Yes.
I mean, that was so funny. I was giving this talk in India, and there were certain things like coherence that didn't translate. Batman, I'm like, okay, Western superhero. So Batman is a superhero. However, he is one of the only superheroes who is not superhuman. Mm-hmm. What makes Batman a superhero is his super tool belt. So because he has these cool gadgets that if he finds himself falling off the edge of a cliff, he can just throw one of those gadgets to get himself back upright. So too is your resilience toolkit like that. When we have a resilience toolkit, and that toolkit can be a list of things. It might be heart-focused breathing like we just went through. It could be, going for a walk, taking a bath, having a trusted list of people you can call and dump your bucket to, when you're having a really tough day and you need somebody just to hold space and listen. One of my other dear friends who lives here in Houston, she and I have been doing this for each other for about 7 years, and every week we call each other, and sometimes you just want to get stuff out of your space. I'm pissed at my boss, my husband did this, my kids did that, and just to have a committed listener. So whatever it is that's on your resilience toolkit or resilience tool belt from a Batman standpoint, it's important to have at least 10 tools that are written somewhere that are easily accessible, so when you're really stressed and frustrated, you can just go ahead and drop back into that.
I really love that. And I like that you said have a tool list ready to go, because one of the things that we talk about here a lot is we don't want to wait until we're at 10 out of 10 stress and freaking out and we just can't take one more thing because we're so overwhelmed and in that state. We want to have that tool list ready to go. We want to know what's going to de-escalate our stress and anxiety, what that is. And so maybe one of the best action steps for you to take today, if you're listening, is to think about the things that really help you to lower and reduce your stress when you're in those states and have that ready to go. We all have phones. You can have it on your phone even.
That's where I keep mine. And honestly, I'll tell you a funny story. So I do this. Everything I'm suggesting to the audience and to you out there, I am doing personally. So Sunday of this week, I'm in LA. It's Grammy Sunday, and I'm supposed to be, going and flying to San Fran for some meetings before this. My flight says delayed. I'm at lunch, it says flight delayed. And internally in my mind, my flight was supposed to be at 4, it says it's delayed till 7, downpour, torrential rain. I am calculating the risk and risk mitigating. I have meetings starting at 5 a.m. for 15 hours the next day on Monday. What do? So I start trying to call Uber drivers and find somebody to drive me. Now, if I had allowed my anxiety, my stress to get the better of me, then I could have just completely given up. There was a point where you're like, I can't. But then I applied exactly what I'm talking about here. I was doing heart-focused breathing. I was using the resilience tools that I had, and through the collaboration of my husband halfway around the world, he was able to help me get into an Uber so that way I could make it to all my meetings, and thank God, because my other flight didn't take off till midnight that night.
Right? Yeah. You wouldn't have made it in time. That's fantastic. And so the moral of the story is have the tools in your toolbox and utilize them, because that's the other piece. A lot of times what I have seen is people will do the learning, they'll learn the tools, they'll get it, and then when push comes to shove, they don't implement them.
This is where your accountability buddy comes in. Have you ever heard of this? So you can have an accountability buddy. Mine and I meet every weekday, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. for 15 minutes. And that's where you can share whatever is stressing you in that moment. So it's not a work friend, it's not your spouse, it's not your kids. It's somebody who's bipartisan who can help give you support and say, well, did you try that new tool that you learned? Did you try the heart-focused breathing? So you have somebody holding you accountable, and then you tell them what you're committed to every week. What am I committed to in business? Who am I committed to being with my family? What am I committed to doing in terms of resilience? And they can check in, hey, how did it go with your resilience tools? Did you do HeartMath today? And then you get to hold each other accountable.
And that's really key. And as a coach, that's one of the things that we talk about a lot is the accountability, because we have to have that, especially when we're building a new habit. And as we do that and we hold each other accountable with our accountability buddy, what it does is you just keep doing the activity and it slowly becomes a part of who you are. And you don't have to think about it. And I think that's the state where when we get to the point where our resilience, we have that toolkit and it's just a part of who we are, those are the people that you're like, nothing phases them. It doesn't matter if the world is falling down. They're going to be the person who still shows up, is calm, cool, collected, and can keep on rolling. They're the problem solvers. Is that what you find?
Yeah, and I also find it makes you very sexy. Like, everybody wants to be around you. It's like, who is that person? Because you don't need other people. So often we're grabbing at each other for energy, attention. We want to dump on people. When we contain ourselves and we hold our own space and we don't get our junk all over other people, that makes us a desirable employee, a desirable partner, a desirable parent, whatever you want to call it. And as we continue to develop this, we can bring those 40 to 50 bits of awareness we began today with talking about that by understanding, where am I at mentally, emotionally? Is there anything I need to do? If I'm coming into Jen right now to do this show, is there anything I need to do to clear my energy right now so that way I can be fully present with Jen and her audience? And by doing that, it's psychological, what would I call that, hygiene.
I love it. Psychological hygiene. You heard it here first, psychological hygiene.
I just made it up.
so you get trademark that. So.
Yeah, I know. Stay tuned.
So Jennifer, this has been really, really insightful for everyone. I know that people have more questions. How can they get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about what you're doing with your app or in the world?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. If anybody would like to connect with me, you can go to om.app, om.app, and that's where you can find out about OptiMatch. And you can try out, get a free trial of our survey, or you can go to my jenniferkhill.com website, which is where you can find me for keynote speaking. I do some executive coaching as time permits. I only take a handful of clients at a time, though I'm happy to see how I can be of service.
Thank you so much for your gems of wisdom. Any last token that you would like to leave with our audience today?
The most important thing, Jen, that I will say to you and your audience is to find something you love. Whether it's a hobby, whether it's something that just brings you joy, if you're lucky enough to get to do it in life, that mitigates stress. When we're doing something we love, then it doesn't occur as work. I think it was the creator of Peter Pan who said it's only work if you'd rather be doing something else.
That's exactly right. Sage words. Thank you so much for that. We do have to take a brief commercial break, but we will be right back after these messages.